Hi, Mrs. Powers here, and I just wanted to give you guys a little demonstration about what I'm expecting you to do when you are on task number 1. So if you are in personal flex time right now and you're not really sure how to get started, what you should do first is start with number 1, get to know the summative, right? What I'm expecting is that you are able to read through the directions right here. Read through both summative project choices. Fill out the Padlet with any questions you may have. All right. And so there are 3 attachments in this assignment, and one of them says character analysis, body biography summative. And the other one says character analysis, essay summative. And then the last one says summative questions. And I'm seeing this Padlet here in Padlet.com. So I'm assuming that this is where I'm going to post my questions. The other 2 things here are probably the project choices. So we're going to start with the first one, body biography summative. When you open that up, it's going to take you to a pretty lengthy assignment description. And you'll notice that it tells you that this is about standard 7.4.1.1. This is the character body biography for Unit 1. It's a summative assessment, which means it goes into the 80% category in the grade book. So this is a really big deal, okay? And then what it does is it defines the project. What is a body biography, a character body biography? Well, this is going to give you the definition. Okay, so a body biography is a visual portrait illustrating various aspects of a character's life through the use of pictures, symbols, words, and phrases. It requires a deep understanding of a character. Consider the character's decisions, the reactions other characters have to the reactions other characters have to your character, the perspective the characters hold, and the character's growth and change over time. Okay. So that's all part of creating a body biography. So before I would do anything else, I really have to have a character that I study and get to know well. Then my task is to create a computerized or paper poster analyzing one character from your novel. Which novel? Ooh, that's a question I have. I got to remember that. Maybe I'll make a note here on my Post-it or on scratch piece of paper, and then I can put it into that Padlet later on, right? Yeah. Requirements. The goal of this assessment is not to depict. Oh, what does that word mean? Oh, I can Google that. Let's pull up the dictionary and Google that, huh? I can depict how you imagine the person looks. And in other words, do not draw your mental visualization of the character. Rather, you will represent the attributes of the character in an alternative, creative way. Oh, that's a lot to think about. I need to stop and break this down and think through what this means. Okay, what is an attribute? What's alternative? Go through and think that out. Okay. It requires an abstract representation of one of the characters from your novel. Abstract. I've heard of like abstract art before. Is this kind of similar? Like it's going to be something that doesn't look exactly like the character, but pieces of it have some sort of symbolic meaning? I don't know. I'm going to write this question down too on my Post-it note, right? Yeah. Include the following. A visual representation of the character. Include color, consider placement, size, and shape. Think about that for a minute. Something that visually represents the character has to be on my poster. Okay? And then there need to be 3 sections. We need to identify a character trait the text uses to describe the character. Provide textual evidence to support your find. Explain why you believe this trait is important for the character. So this must be like our explicit evidence where the text comes out and tells us the trait of a character. Okay, and then the second one says to infer a character trait you believe strongly represents your chosen character. Okay, well I know what it means to infer. I've got to make an inference using my own educated guess and background information that I have. And then I need to provide textual evidence to support my choice, explain why this trait is important for the character. So kind of the same thing that I had to do in the last one, right? Same thing, but the first one I had to explicitly find a trait, and the second one I am inferring a trait. Okay, cool. And then the third one says to infer a prediction or conclusion you believe is accurate for this character. Provide textual evidence you believe, that's a typo, supports this prediction or conclusion. Explain why this evidence supports your thought. Oh, look, same thing again at the end here. So I really just need to focus on the beginning. Infer a prediction or conclusion you believe is accurate. Prediction or conclusion, is this like what I think happens after the story is over? The author doesn't tell us, but I could infer what happens maybe. Yeah, I'm going to write this down too, just in case I'm not right, but that's a question that I have, and that's what I think it's about, right? And then the next section is about feedback, it looks like. Okay, so, sorry, I'm trying to fix formatting here as we go. So feedback, peers. I can ask for feedback from peers 2 times. Each time your peer will need to respond with a feedback form. No one can modify your work except you. It is up to you to reflect on the feedback and decide if you want to take the advice given to you. So this is like peer editing. So 2 times while I'm working on my body biography, I can ask one of my classmates to respond to me, to my work, and tell me what I think of it. And they do that by we fill out a form. Where are those forms? Oh, that's another question I have. Write that down. Okay? And then another section of this feedback thing is teacher related. You can also ask for feedback from your teacher. However, you will need to do that by filling out a coaching form and scheduling a coaching session. You will need to come to the session with specific questions. Oh yeah, that's because Mrs. Powers doesn't want us to just show up and say, oh, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Right? We need to have specific questions like, what does a prediction or conclusion mean? Or, real questions that we've thought through, right? Okay, so that makes sense to me. I've just got to figure out where these forms are, the feedback form and the coaching form, and then where the schedule for the coaching session is. That is unclear, right? Okay, questions. Write them down. Then we can move on to the next section, which is all about scoring. Now, I'm noticing this rubric here that teachers always use to grade us on our work. And typically, this meets category is like a B. Like a 3 means like a B, right? And Mrs. Powers has that on her board over there. So you can look at that Learn board and look at all the grades that are up there. A C is a 2 and a 3. is a B. And then this 4 would be like our A. So if we're aiming to at least get a B, these are the things that I need to focus on while I do my body biography summative, right? So I'm going to read through each of these and study them and make sure I understand them. And I'm going to write down any questions that I might have about them, right? And then this is about the actual presentation of my poster. I'm making a poster, so it's got to look nice and it's got to have specific things on it. Right? Okay, so all that makes quite a bit of sense, and then I'm going to keep moving down. The last part that I'm going to look at is the tips, and it looks like there's tips for planning my project, tips for designing my project. So I would go through and I would ask myself these questions and think about these things as I'm working on my project. Now, am I going to work on my project, my summative? Do I start that now? Let me see here. Get to know the summative. Do the directions say to do the summative? To start working on the summative? No, it just says to get to know it. Read through the project choices. Fill out the Padlet with any questions. So I don't have to do the summative now. I'm just learning about it. Yes. So I can come down here now to the summative. Well, first I have to go through and read the essay summative directions, which actually look very similar to the body biography. Also 80% of our grade. However, it's different because it's a different assignment. It's gonna tell us about a character analysis essay instead of a poster. So this would be better for people who like to write and who have organized thoughts. If you're a little bit more abstract and like things to be a little more random and artsy, then the body biography is going to be for you. But you should definitely go through this essay assignment description, read that, make sure you understand it, write down questions that you have. Okay, there's a rubric for this one too, and there's actually quite a bit of tips for this one: planning, writing, feedback, and reflection. So read through that, and then you're going to go back to the summative questions here. And that's where you can find the Padlet, and you can post your questions as you wish. Make sure your questions are clear, and that I know if your question is about the essay or the body biography, if that is relative. And feel free to put your name in case I can't figure out what your question means. I can always come find you. All right, good luck. Once you've completed all this, then you're done with task number 1.